Welcome to the next episode of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Stories podcast. Today I have a new friend, just met her last week. She's the AD at West Marshall Community Schools, track wrestling guru, photographer, IA Wrestle, and just welcome Alexa or Alex. I just screwed that up myself, and I just said that Nicholson. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Troy?
I'm doing really good. First thing I thought we'd start with, and probably the most important thing in your life right now, is the quest for the best stuffed crust pizza in the world. And I saw this on your
Oh,
Facebook page, so I thought we'd
you
start with
did.
pizza.
You did some digging. Okay, so
Yes.
oh, that's a really great question. I lived in New York, like my wrestling journey took me to New York City. And I lived out there for a while and I this is sad to admit, probably haven't updated my Facebook bio since maybe college.
Well,
But I was converted to a hardcore like New York style pizza. So
and
I
that's
lived in Hoboken and it was great.
so Iowa, we're not really New York style pizza.
No,
What would you describe New York style pizza as?
if you can fold it, then it's
Okay.
correct. Like,
That
and if
so
you feel bad after you eat it a little bit, just 'cause the grease level's so high, but it's worth it.
all right. Have you found any places in Iowa that you can get that good pizza?
Oh, that's a great question. So I live in Nevada, Iowa, and like there's two pizza places in Nevada. It's hotly contested. And we are Annie's people in our household. So,
Gotcha. So Annie's pizza is pretty darn good. Not Casey's.
oh, Casey's is fine. I feel bad in Iowa saying that I don't like Casey's pizza, but
Yeah, you could almost probably get run out of the state for that.
you really could.
So I live in Wall Lake, Iowa, which is really small. You're
Hmm.
so West Marshall, is that in state center? Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, we're
Okay,
in state center.
very small town also.
Yes.
Yes, so probably similar to Wall Lake. So yeah, I have to drive 15 minutes to get my good Casey's pizza. We do
Mm.
have a local place that's pretty good, but they're not open every day. So,
Yeah, that's kind of
kind
where
of
we're at too.
depends. Now, the next thing I wanted to touch on is, you're an admitted addict and you drink a lot of Diet Coke. And I myself, I don't drink the Diet Coke, but I have the Diet Mountain Dew. So,
Hmm.
I mean, the first step is admitting the problem,
It is.
So have you thought of finding some help for this problem, or are you
Oh,
just going to go with it?
so I cut all pop when I was like so I also you'll learn I've lived a little bit everywhere. I lived out in North Carolina and I lived in Bowie's Creek. I worked at Campbell University for Coach Kolat and when I was out there like he is so incredibly healthy.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be super, super healthy as like his director of wrestling ops. And once I moved back to Iowa, I immediately was back on the Diet Coke. My students like to make fun of me for it all the time. So it's okay.
Yeah, no, I was about a year and a half to 2 years without any pop.
Mm.
Dr. Pepper family grew up,
Oh yeah.
instead of coffee, we had Dr. Pepper and stuff. So I grew up in that kind of household. 2 years without, and then when I started coaching at Ridgeview, the older assistant than myself was drinking just regular Mountain Dew. So I
Oh
was like, okay, I could have one pop, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that then it was over. It's been 4 years of I can't stop. So.
That's all right.
Uh, you said you were in New York and you did have
Yep,
artwork at Madison Square Garden.
I did. Yep. So you actually did a podcast with Emma Randall, who I
Yes,
absolutely adore. I was with Beat the
yes.
Street New York as well. So Emma and I were out there at the same time, and I was the communications coordinator for Beat the Streets New York. And got to do all of the artwork when we had our event at MSG, so at Hulu Theater. So in a previous life, was all like a graphic designer and a photographer, and did some PR work and got to have all of my artwork of Ben Askren and Jordan Burroughs hanging outside of MSG, and it was just the
Oh,
coolest thing.
very cool. Emma Randall is one of my favorite people in the world.
She is
Uh,
absolutely incredible.
Yeah, her mind works so it's different how her mind works, but I've been in enough clinics with her. The way she teaches, I'm just in awe. I mean, she's what best coach I've ever been around by
Oh,
far.
100%. Yes.
Yes, definitely. So you've had quite an interesting just wrestling
Yep.
career. So maybe I don't even, maybe we'll, I'll start with Twin River Duels because that's where we met, and then
Yeah,
I'll
perfect.
get into that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
So met at Twin River Duels, you're doing track wrestling for IA Wrestle.
Yes.
How
Yep.
how did you run into Tony and how did this get started?
Oh man. So I met Tony. I was fresh out of college. So I graduated from Wartburg in 2016. And I had been with Wartburg Wrestling throughout college, and I was working at Upper Iowa. I was an admissions counselor. I was working with their wrestling program and doing some geographic recruiting. And I knew I wanted to stay in wrestling, so I just was Tony I think put out a tweet that said, "We need help at Midlands," and it was like midnight, and I just like DM'd him and was like, "Hey, I'll drive to Chicago." Sure, why not? Uh, and Tony totally took a chance on me, and I drove to Chicago, and I ended up like live commentating Midlands, and
Oh
had like
wow,
I had done radio stuff, but yeah, and I've been with them ever since. So I've been with IA Wrestle in different capacities for about 10 years.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've done my share of stuff with Tony too, with all of
Yep.
his, organizing some of it, well, not organizing, but trying to find him girls to wrestle
Oh
at
yeah.
Night of Conflicts, and
Yep.
I've been on his, podcast a couple times too. But no, that's really cool. So you have a lot of experience with track wrestling then. I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I ran track at Wartburg. So all of our managers, I managed wrestling for Coach Keller. We all ran track. Uh, Tommy Maroka, one of the foundational guys with track wrestling, was a Wartburg wrestler. So learned it from the best with him. And now I ran track for Upper Iowa when I was there. I did it when I taught at Pocahontas with IA, and now I'm a high school AD. So
Oh wow. So
track, I
you
know track
you
like the back of my hand at this point.
well, I know who to call now.
Yeah,
That's
I got
awesome.
you. Don't worry.
Man, I think I might even told you the very first tournament I went to as a head coach. I didn't know. I forgot to put my team in. I just didn't put
Oh,
my team in. I made a weigh-in sheet and said, "Here you go." And they're like, "Your team's not in." So I had no idea. So
thanks.
that's my track knowledge. So no, that's
That's all
that's great. And
right.
then I heard Jason talk to you a little bit, and you're gonna maybe help us out a little bit with AAU.
Yeah, I'm excited to be with AAU. It'll be awesome. I
Yeah,
love women's wrestling.
it's a fun group. Allie Joe is always fun to work with. Sydney's
Oh
fun to
yeah,
work
she's
with.
great.
That head table is a good group.
It's
I don't get to
fun.
sit down very often. My job is to walk around and hand out water and do whatever. But so no, we're
Yeah.
excited to have you on there. So your wrestling story, you've kind of said a little bit of it, but man, how'd you get out to New York?
Oh yeah, I can kind of take you through. It's a weird,
That's
long
all
path
right.
that got me
That's all
there.
right.
So I'm from Fort Dodge.
Okay.
So
Well, we
hard to
won't
be.
hold that against you.
It's okay. It's hard to be from Fort Dodge and not be in wrestling in some capacity.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was actually a wrestling cheerleader in at Fort Dodge, and the cheer portion wasn't super for me, but the wrestling portion definitely was. I'm almost 30, so very much before the super active role of girls in Iowa high school wrestling.
Yeah.
Uh, but I went to Wartburg, and I ended up managing Wartburg Wrestling for the 3 years that I was there. And during that time, I got to intern with the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. So Kyle Klingman was the director at that point and built up some really good connections and spent some time with USA Wrestling. I did some event-based work with them. I was out at the World Championships in Vegas. I did the Pan American qualifier and a lot of that. I graduated from Wartburg, and then I worked at Upper Iowa. I worked within their wrestling program and then got kind of brought in with Hager and IA Wrestle back in its like infancy. Did a lot of Night of Conflict, stuff like that. And then I moved to Des Moines and was with Grandview University. Was there for a couple years. I went to grad school. I graduated from Mizzou. I have a master's of ed in school leadership and counseling psychology. And at that point, I knew I wanted to jump into higher education, but I didn't know what I wanted it to look like. And Coach Kolat kind of, I remember Carrie tweeted, and apparently all my jobs come from Twitter, I guess, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Uh, he tweeted he was looking for a director of wrestling operations, and that was my dream. Like
Oh
that was
yeah.
all I wanted to do was to be a director of ops. So I moved out to North Carolina, and I was with Coach Kolat for a season, and then kind of got offered the opportunity to go with Beat the Streets. And the mission at Beat the Streets is just so deeply important and something I was really passionate about. So I was excited and got to go out and be with them before technically education kind of came back knocking on my door. Living in New York is extremely expensive,
Uh-huh.
as especially working in the nonprofit space. So I ended up moving back to Iowa and was just a te not just a teacher. I was just a straight up teacher for a couple of years. I taught at Fort Dodge Middle School, then I taught at Pocahontas Area Community, and then I moved to West Marshall. I've been at West Marshall for 3 years now. I've been the AD there for 2 years.
Very
So my
exciting.
wrestling journey is a little
Well,
all over the place.
that's all right. That's all cool experiences, really cool
Yes.
experiences. Coach Kolat would be really good to work with. Em Randall's really good to work with.
Yes.
Heath Grimm, I'm assuming up at
Oh, I was with
all
Heath.
great,
Yep.
great guy there. So I mean, yeah, you've had some great people to work under.
Yeah,
That's
it's been awesome.
big resume builders there. So
Yeah.
yeah. And so State Center, small town, like I'm from Wall Lake. When I pulled it up, because I've been through State Center, obviously I just drove through it when I went to Cedar Rapids last time,
Oh, yep.
which
Highway
I
30.
went Highway 30.
Yep.
But the one thing that pulls up on the on Google Maps right away is Daryl's Gun Shop is probably the biggest thing in State Center. So
On the highway. Yep.
yeah. So I mean that's pretty cool. You
We've
know,
got that going for us.
you got that going. We have a gas station, a bar, a four-lane bowling alley, and a restaurant. So I don't know if we got you beat or not.
You have us beat in the bowling alley capacity. We just got a restaurant back. Well, we have a pizza shop, which is incredible. Bailey's Pizza. But we just got a Mexican restaurant. It's a very big deal in State
I
Center.
I
So,
bet it is. But
it-
Nevada's if you're living in Nevada though, that's a lot
oh
more.
yeah. Yeah.
And you're close to Ames, so you can get anything you want.
Yeah, I can be in Ames in 10 minutes from my house. So
I still have to drive 25 minutes to get to Walmart, so and that's all highway driving. So and it doesn't matter which direction I go. I can go to Storm Lake, I can go to Denison, or I can go to Carroll.
oh yeah. Oh, okay. I see where you're yeah.
I'm in the triangle there. So yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm in the triangle in the middle of nowhere.
That's
Um, so becoming an AD at
yeah.
West Marshall, that's the latest thing.
Yeah, I
And
was kind of surprised.
life as an AD. How is life as an AD? I know that I think every coach in the world probably complains about their AD. How's your AD and going?
Oh, spring is a great time to be an AD. We have three track meets in the next 8 days,
Nice.
barring the weather. Um, no, I love my job. I like to say it's my favorite and least favorite thing. It's wonderful. I am one of very few female ADs, but I am part of a conference where there are three of us, and it's
Oh wow.
wonderful. It's really, really great. The camaraderie between other ADs is so much fun. I work with a really great set of coaches. I'm super, super biased. I think they're wonderful. I hired some of them, so I think they're wonderful. But it's a great thing. My superintendent totally took a chance on me. He, we, my, so long story short, West Marshall has had very few ADs in its history. The ADs are there for a very long time, like 20 to 25 years.
Oh wow.
Uh, so yeah, they've got staying power. It's the former basketball coach and then the former football coach prior than that. And I'm just a random girl from Fort Dodge, and my soup is a former UNI wrestler. My high school principal is big into wrestling. It's really fun to be a part of an administrative team that is all in on girls wrestling. My
Yeah, it would.
superintendent is one
I
of my female wrestling coaches. So
That's awesome. And
yeah.
so one of the things that's near and dear to me is growing the sport of girls wrestling, right? I've been doing that for, and it's going on 11 years that I've been really working on that. But now I think through AAU, we've changed kind of our focus. Obviously, the growth is there and it's going to continue to grow,
Yep.
but growing female coaches. Um,
Yep.
as an AD, what are, I don't even know how to ask the question for sure. What do you think that we can do as to get that growth, whether it's through coach moms that are coming up or former athletes, or even I know there's quite a few there's even some that were former wrestling cheerleaders that just
Oh
love the
yeah.
sport. So
Mhm.
how can we foster that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. As a woman, I've oftentimes found myself as the only girl in a room full of men. Uh, and I know the female wrestling coaches that I've worked with and I've been around have had very similar experiences. And how do we create an environment where we're not ostracized in a room full of men, but instead are celebrated. I think the
Mhm.
girls' union's done a really good job of that on the AD side. We had our state AD convention a few weeks ago, and we always have a gathering of female athletic directors just to build that relationship. When we look at developing female coaches for wrestling, there's a huge market that's going to be coming into the job field in the next few years with this first batch of Iowa high school female wrestlers. And giving them opportunities as ADs is very important to say, I'm not afraid to take a risk on a kid who may be younger, but was this first pioneering class through the sport. And whether that's through professional development, mentoring programs, I think it's going to be a huge piece.
Yeah, it's something that we're trying to do, get as many college girls coaching at Twin River Duels. I know it's a one weekend
Yep.
deal, but
There were a
so
lot of them though.
there was a lot. There's a lot. Same way with officiating, I'm sure
Yep.
you've met Nadine through
Oh,
the
yes.
years and stuff.
Yep.
So, Nadine came, she did clinic for us and certified some officials. I think those are the two pieces, a lot, I think those are really important things that we need to work on. Um, I was going to go into some different things from the girls' union, and this kind of popped into my head. Actually, I had ran to the local gas station on the way home, thinking, what's something else we can talk about? And there's a lot of people that are freestyle only people,
Yep.
and I look at it. I love freestyle wrestling too, so
Yep.
I don't want to crack on it, but I look at if we're going to talk about girls wrestling, and you hear, well, you have to do freestyle because of college. I look at logistics in Iowa and I look at the headache that this becomes. And I said, well, New York did it. Well, I still want to know, did New York do it well? That's what I really want to know.
New York has
Because,
a bigger pool to pull from.
yeah, but is I think even Emma told me that there's two separate things. There's the state of New York and
Yes.
there's the city of New York.
Yep.
And so this year, the state of New York ran freestyle, and
Yep.
I haven't heard numbers. I haven't heard if these small schools are able to support a freestyle team, if they ran it more as an individual, how officiating was. So let's look at it as from an AD perspective. How hard is it to find officials just for your duels on, well, now Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
If I'm not booked a year and a half in advance, I will not have like I am very blessed in that I have a lot of friends that are in officiating. So if I truly end up in a
Yep.
bind, like I can make a call. But if you are not booked out and know your dates a year to, I know officials booked 2 years out, like
Yeah.
full schedule booked. It's extremely challenging to find. If I, yeah, the whole freestyle thing, it would complicate that even more.
Yeah, and that's again, I'm not against it. I just don't see how logistically it works and stuff. And I
Yeah.
see, I'm in Northwest Iowa, and we have
Yep.
an even smaller officiating pool,
Yep.
a smaller coaching pool. And I sit there and think, man, some of these guys are ready to retire, and they stuck around. Some of them literally stuck around just to referee the girls' side of the sport
Yep.
because they enjoy it. But if they had to relearn at this point in time, um, exposure instead of control. Oh,
Oh,
I mean, I had a problem this year. This is, just even with people knowing this year's set of rules,
mhm.
because some people just they do it for a paycheck, not for, and we're fortunate enough to be around some of the best officials,
Oh my
when
God.
that group that was at AAU with the AU state, the state officials, Mark Kenny, these people, they're
Yeah.
amazing to be around and learn a lot from, but they're not all them, you know.
No.
So yeah, that scares me.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is an AD. People always talk about going to college, and
Hmm.
and we got to prepare these kids for college. But is that really our job as high school educators and coaches? Are we preparing them to be athletes in college or not? What's an
So,
AD perspective on that?
so I think I have a pretty unique role compared to a lot of other ADs, just knowing I come from a athletic recruiting background.
Hmm.
Uh, that I have a really hands-on role in our students' athletic recruitment process. Uh, and I have a very talented group of seniors this year that are a lot of them are going to college for athletics. But when I sit down to talk with them, one of the big conversations that I find myself having is that, hey, I was a college athlete until my body told me I wasn't. And I still had to be a college student. You have to be going to college to get your education, not just to play a sport. And if the only reason you're going is to play a sport, then we need to have a different conversation. Uh, but I I feel like it's really interesting. I have a female wrestler going this year, so I think about the freestyle situation. And she just started wrestling in high school. Liz didn't come in with a freestyle background. We are teaching her freestyle now.
Hmm.
Uh, but I still feel we've adequately prepared her, even though she's wrestled folk and will transition to free. But she's a student first, just like all of my kids are.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Statistically, I sometimes those arguments upset me because, what is it, 3.5% of high school girls I don't, that might be a high number, will wrestle in college.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's an incredibly high number, actually. It's
Mhm.
probably closer to 2%.
Yeah.
Within the first 2 years, 50% of that number will no longer be competing.
Yep.
And so, man, I think our job is just to get them ready for life.
Mhm.
That's,
Absolutely.
and so, yeah, that's just, I guess my little
No,
rant for the day, I guess. I don't know. I was just thinking about the whole freestyle versus, especially since we're coming into freestyle season. So you're going
we
to see that
are.
post, constantly see that post. Oh, we should be doing freestyle only and blah, blah. I think folk style I think it's an advantage to the United States, honestly, when it comes to international wrestling, because you don't see others, you see some things coming out of the United States that they just don't do.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't run chicken wings and armbar series. They don't do cradles, but we do.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, I'll get off the freestyle rant.
Oh, you're
That's
fine.
okay.
All good.
So, AD scheduling wise, man, it's got to be girls wrestling has got to be kind of
Yeah.
a nightmare sometimes because our meets tend to be Monday, Fridays.
Yep.
Um, even when it came to regionals, it's a Friday afternoon that, schools have to decide, hey, what are we going to do here? Are we going to let them out early? How can we get this done? What on the administrative side, what are some of the pros, cons to girls wrestling Monday,
Yeah.
Fridays?
It's definitely tough. Um, I mean, what we want as educators is butts in seats as long as we can have them, right? We want kids in
Yep.
class. Uh, Definitely presents a challenging schedule. My girls wrestle at Donnybrook, so I know I'm taking them out of 2 full days of school. Then I'm looking at regionals, taking them out of a full day of school. State, hopefully taking them out of 2 full days of school. Uh, Depending on when we're traveling, just with where we're at
Yeah.
geographically. And now that we look at state duels in a couple of 26, 27, that will eventually be a similar thing. Uh, it's a lot of it's Tetris. An athletic schedule is the most challenging game of Tetris I've ever played. Uh, it
And
we
I
have
suck at Tetris, so I'll tell you.
some days I feel like I do too. 80% of my students are involved in activities in some capacity at West Marshall. And we are a very small school, so I have dual activities students. So that game becomes even more challenging. And with girls wrestling on Mondays and Fridays, I also have basketball typically played on Mondays and Fridays. Luckily, we haven't ran into the situation of someone wanting to do both of those things yet, but I know that it's coming. Eventually, we'll have that, and it's a good problem to have. But it's definitely posing a challenge in terms of just keeping kids in class as long as we can. Our conference, 4 of the 9 schools in our conference have girls wrestling, so we don't have a conference schedule yet. We all wrestle one another. We just don't have a
Uh-huh.
full schedule. Um, if we did, that would be really great geographically because we're pretty close to one another. I live in Nevada. Nevada's in my conference too, so it's
Yeah.
15 minutes for my kids to get here and wrestle in Nevada. I can keep them in class longer if they can wrestle schools that are closer than us. Unfortunately, State Center is it's been a really unique time to put together a football schedule because geographically we're pretty isolated. Even though we're in Marshall County, like right next to Story County, there's just the schools near us are big and we
Yeah.
are not.
So you have to district wise, you're traveling distance to play your games on Friday nights then, aren't you?
Oh, for football, yeah, we
Yeah.
my shortest distance is to Ogden this year. So it's
Wow.
like
Wow.
my average travel is an hour and a half. When I was in high
Wow.
school, all of Fort Dodge's games were an hour and a half.
Yeah, because bigger school in a smaller area. So you
Yeah,
had to go Des Moines, Sioux City, probably
yeah,
Council Bluffs.
yeah. But it's interesting as an AD just to play the scheduling game. And I want to also, as someone that like girls wrestling is why it's like it's my why. It's why it's the thing that makes me excited and makes me passionate. I also want to build a schedule that's extreme. Like I want my kids to have the best chance to get the best
Yep.
teams throughout the season. And it's balancing those things, but also keeping my girls in class and
I run into the same problems, and I've had these same discussions with mostly my superintendent because the AD is as a wrestling coach also, so I don't
oh,
get the
yep,
arguments too much from him. But I said he said same thing with conference schedule. Boy, it'd be really nice if you were just traveling here and here and here. We didn't have to take them out of school, and you're getting home
yep,
at midnight. And I said, well, I think that might be your job then to get these other superintendents on board of girls wrestling, because in our
yep,
conference, it's Ridgeview, and we have two of our conference schools in the co-op at Ridgeview. There's
yep.
Western Iowa, who has three of the conference schools, and then sitting alone by themselves is Woodbury Central, and they
Oh,
had a
yep,
very, very small team this year. And
yes.
so there is just we had one meet where we all were all together, and we kind of called it conference, but it's not, So that's the struggle is with these other schools. You have four schools out of your nine. It'd be
Yep.
great if those other five would do something, or
Oh, I'm
even go
trying.
two in co-op it
Yep.
somehow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's something I was going to talk about co-ops and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you co-opt at all?
Nope, they're all mine.
All yours. And how many kids are on the team?
Oh man. Okay, middle school this year we had 24. And our high
Wow.
school numbers, we had bless my girls, they couldn't stay healthy. We fluctuated a fair bit. I think we started the season with 20 and ended right around 14 just with some injuries. Uh,
That's great numbers for a single school.
yes.
It would be a 1A school. A 1A are you a 1A school in wrestling anyway, or are you a 2A
Um,
school?
we're 1A girls, 2A boys.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So for even for that size of school, having 14 girls out at the end of the season, 20
Hmm.
at the beginning is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
24 middle school girls,
Ooh,
which leads us into another question, whether I don't think it's going to happen, but the bill was on the table there, and I don't know if it's still on the table to have
it's
eighth
dead.
graders. It's dead. Okay.
Dead.
So, but even just to think about that, I had to sit back and look at, wow, how would you even do that?
Yeah, we had a
You
lot of
know,
conversation about it as ADs. A lot. Um, Selfishly, on the girls wrestling side, I would have loved it last year just because I had an eighth grader that I really would have loved to have
yeah.
up. Uh, but she'll be with us next year. But I think of it from a football perspective as an AD. I'm gonna have a 14-year-old on the line against a 19-year-old grown man,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just the logistics. I understand the small school perspective being small.
Yep.
Uh, but I also understand it from like I'm a 6 foot tall woman and I've been that tall since I was 14, but that's not typically the norm.
No, no.
So just thinking about the like size and safety and things like that, just I had a lot of questions.
Yeah. I know other states do it. South Dakota
Yep,
has seventh graders, but there's rules involved in that too.
yep,
And then
Minnesota.
from my understanding was the bill wasn't well written. Maybe it was pretty vague and open.
Yep,
Instead of like South Dakota, you can only wrestle. I'm going to use wrestling.
mhm,
If
yep,
you're a seventh or eighth grader, you can only wrestle high school if you're a varsity athlete. So therefore, otherwise, if you're not the varsity athlete, then you're wrestling the middle school schedule, which then is another question. Now, does that take away split season?
yep.
Would bring in middle, and then if it's only eighth graders, what do your seventh graders do? Now, do we have sixth and seventh grade as middle school or middle school athletics? You know, how
Yeah.
does
Absolutely.
there's a lot of questions that really does bring up. I think it
Mhm.
would for wrestling, I would have been so happy to have it myself. I would,
I
but
would have loved to have Keeley. It would have been great.
yeah,
But
yeah, I would. There's a bunch of that's where I'm seeing the middle school growth, and I can't see our co. I mean, I hate to say it, but I just can't see our co-op staying together because sooner or later there's going to be people upset that why is my kid not getting an opportunity to
yeah,
be on the regional team?
Hmm.
she's just as good, or we have to have those wrestle offs. So that's when co-ops start breaking up.
Yeah.
Is honestly when people start asking those questions, why am I not getting opportunities? Because I know that's a question and I'm sure that was at your AD's meeting too,
Oh yeah.
co-ops and wrestling and stuff. So, I mean,
Hmm. How long do they stick
we
around?
yep. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard question. It
It
is a
is.
very hard question.
Yep.
And that changes well, we know that 2A is going to be larger this year
Yep.
in wrestling. Probably 80. I've heard 80 or 88, depending on
Yep.
what
80
the
to 88 was what we were
somewhere in
told.
there. So that's bringing another 20 some
Mhm.
schools that were on the bubble. They're not on the bubble anymore. You know,
No.
so that could be real interesting to see some of that. I'm kind of hoping that maybe some of those larger ones do dissolve over the next couple of years, bringing that
Yeah.
number,
Changing the adjustment a little bit.
yeah, yeah, just could be interesting. Um, we talked about Fridays, three qualifiers. This is something that I fought long and hard. Every coach in the room fought long and hard for. What do the ADs think about three qualifiers? Did you guys talk about it at all?
I don't want to say I am the AD that I think has the loudest voice because I'm definitely not. I know there's some other female wrestling ADs out there. Um, when we so at our conversation we had, they mentioned the 80 to 88. They mentioned state duels and that they might increase the quantity of qualifiers, and they gave us the number of 24 as well. And in my brain, like I come back to an equity perspective
Hmm.
of why are the boys and the girls not why are we not looking at similar quantities of qualifiers? Um, and I voice my opinions. Um,
I did also.
yep. I'm very lucky to work for an administration and a superintendent that is just as passionate about women's wrestling as I am. And he's, I think, also pretty adamantly behind wanting to increase to that 24. And I hope we get there. I hope we
I
eventually go there.
I hope so too. I thought it also might help when you're figuring out
Yeah.
regionals, if you have one less qualifier, that's that when you put that real quality group together,
Yeah.
we're not hurting as many, we're not sending ranked
Yep.
wrestlers home on a regional day that could easily be
Absolutely.
a
Hmm.
place winner. So, that's just the way I looked at it. So
Absolutely.
state duels, that's awesome. I wish it was a year or two earlier.
Yep.
But I
Yeah,
know it takes some planning. It does. I understand that.
for sure.
I
Yep.
I I don't know. I may be a few years away from having a state dual quality team. I did a couple of years ago, but
Same.
they're all a lot of them are in college, so I have to.
Yep.
We're rebuilding now with some really good kids, so I'm
Yeah.
excited about state duels. Um, let's kind of steer away from wrestling and just
Yeah, of
get to know you just a little bit better.
course.
Um, recently have been married, so
Yep.
what's the family like then?
Yeah. So I got married last July. My husband's name is Brett. He is a high school science teacher. His classroom's about four doors down from my office. Uh, so it's just us, and we have a cat. No kids here. I like to say I have 100 and 60 kids that I worry about every day, and that's good for me right now. But yeah, nope. We live in Nevada. He teaches biology and life sciences. So
Nice.
yeah,
These are not my subjects, but that's okay.
not mine either. Bless his.
Yeah, and a proud cat mom.
I am. Yep. We have a cat. His name's Beef. He's
So
poorly behaved. Yeah.
yeah, you said you had to find your misbehaved cat before you got started today,
Yes.
but that's okay.
He likes
Um,
to be around all the time.
and I always ask the girls this, if you could have any pet, domestic or,
Or
exotic,
yes.
you know, what would you get?
That's a really great question. Oh man, I'm just a total cat mom. I'll own that. But I grew up with Saint Bernards. My family's always had Saint Bernards. So love big dogs. But I feel like every girl went through a llama phase at some point. I don't know what it is about females and llamas, but maybe that my husband's family farms, so like owning a llama is probably not that far out of the scope for me.
There
I
you
don't know if
go.
my in-laws would probably disagree with me on that. They don't have cattle anymore, but
Well,
yeah.
my assistant coach Shepard, he would be upset because you didn't say alpacas because
Oh,
they
yeah,
they
that's
they take the
true.
alpacas, so
Fair.
they're interesting animals. I
Absolutely.
think I'm guessing llamas and alpacas are very similar.
I think so.
I
Yeah.
would think they are. I guess I don't know. I'm really not a farm kid. Even though I'm in the small rural Iowa, I'm just not a farm kid.
I am not either, and my husband totally was, or I guess he still is. So, yeah, very different.
So I know well, I mean, I'm sure you've been on the mat enough times now.
Yes.
Can you pick your favorite wrestling shoe out? Do you have a favorite, or just and maybe it's by looks? I don't know.
I love a Colat, but that could also 100% be my deep bias for Carrie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're more on the ASIC side of the shoes.
Yeah, I also, I don't know, Nike just looks so clean. I'm a Nike singlet girl. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am a Nike
I
singlet
wish I
girl.
could afford the
Ruined.
Nike singlets. So
That makes two of us. Um,
yeah, because that like the built-in extra built-in
oh
bra,
yeah,
built-in underwear, you don't have to worry about
everything. Yeah,
all that little fun
so
stuff. Yeah,
nice.
but they are not cheap.
They are not.
I get mine from a lady from North Carolina.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if well, yeah, you might even know her. Cheryl Baynard. Does that name ring a bell in USA Wrestling out there?
it sounds
She's
super familiar.
she's taking kids to she's taking them overseas to Mongolia and stuff like
Oh
that. But Cheryl,
yeah.
her son had passed away in Iraq, I believe, and then started a foundation for
Oh,
sports
very cool.
equipment and stuff. So I met her at Junior Olympics one time in North
Cool.
Carolina, and I've been getting stuff from her ever since. Real
Nice.
nice.
Love
I love
that.
North Carolina. North Carolina was really nice. We were in Greensboro, is where we
Oh, okay.
stayed.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Yep.
neat area.
It's
And
very
the
cool.
travel out there was kind of cool because we drove
Okay.
uh, about four vehicles full of girls across from Iowa to North Carolina. We stayed in what is the capital of West Virginia? Is it Charlotte? No. What is the capital of West Virginia? That's where we stayed.
Oh,
It's
very
a
nice.
small mountain town. Very cool.
Very.
But yeah, there's some very interesting people. We
Yeah,
met Joe Dirt. I think we met Joe Dirt's mom there at a gas station, so that was kind of cool.
it's pretty rural out there
It is
for
very
sure.
rural out there, but beautiful area.
Oh, it's
So
yeah, of course.
that was super fun. So
Oh,
outside of wrestling, I mean, if you've watched me at all, know me at all, I love shoes. I get all kinds of crazy colored shoes. I'm getting
very-
more away from that because of my knees. I got to wear different shoes now, but I did have the pink Dunks this year, and
oh yeah, did
I've
see
orange Air Force Ones in the past, bright
that.
orange. Is there a shoe outside of wrestling shoes that you absolutely love?
You'll probably, if you see me, just well, whenever I'm taking pictures, I feel like I do the white high top Converse.
Oh, yeah.
Just, it's
I
clean and it's classic.
They are
Uh,
very clean and classic, but
very classic.
support though on a
Oh, I have to
Converse
do the
all
platform ones.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
I
I'm
don't think
getting,
I can pull it off.
they make me 6'2", but at this point, I just don't care.
God, I could be like 5'9". That'd be awesome. Maybe 5'8".
There you go.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's really.
I always ask the girls about food after weigh-ins.
Oh
But
yeah.
you were in other sports. So
Yep. Yeah.
what are some go-to things that just what would you say your girls eat after weigh-ins, or what
Oh
would you recommend they
gosh.
eat?
What I recommend they eat? Oh, it's not what they eat. Um, so Coach Keller at Wartburg, uh, one of our duties as managers was groceries. So I have the Wartburg Wrestling like post weigh-in groceries like down. I could probably still walk the Waverly Hy-Vee and like just get it done. Um, but I am a white chocolate macadamia nut Cliff Bar.
Okay.
That was my what I would steal after the boys weighed in. Um, or oh, definitely fruit, easy digest, quick carbs, things like that. Yeah.
That what Wartburg has? Because if you can
Uh,
tell me what Wartburg had, I mean,
oh,
I
I,
think
oh,
I think you should probably tell us because
I've been
and
out
there's a
for
lot of,
10 years,
all
so
right.
sorry, Keller, if this is a secret. I don't think it is. You can see us eating it at tournaments. Uh, it was bagels, like ham, turkey, cream cheese, only like specific cream cheese, um, Cliff bars, Kind bars. I don't think we kind of got rid of those as the years went on. Um, Bananas, cuties, like your halos or whatever the little
Yeah,
clementines
yep.
are. And that would generally like apples, that generally be it though. Like
I'm
easy
not too
digest.
far
Like
off. Yeah.
no, it's pretty standard. When I was at Campbell, it was pretty similar as well. Like I did all their groceries. Um, and it was pretty standard, like a lot of berries, a lot of water, Gatorade, but only G2, that sort of thing. Yeah.
What about Pedialyte?
I was
They
never not not at Wartburg or Campbell when I was there.
really?
Not,
Okay.
no. Mm-mm.
I was a Dana College guy, and a Pedialyte was one of our deals. But
Oh,
that was, I don't know. They're not quite on the same level there. Dana only had one national title that I can recall, so not quite as many as those maybe. So,
yeah.
um, but you're in a good area. But we don't have to limit it to Iowa. If you, of course, we're going to probably. I think I know where we're going already. Um, Restaurant. Where are you going to go eat, and what are you going to have?
Like post weigh-in meal?
No, this
Oh,
is
just in
this what
general?
what is if you could go pick your meal right now, never ever have to wait.
Oh,
These are calorie-free meals too, so it doesn't matter
calorie.
what you have. So
Okay.
you might as well do it up good.
That's a really tough choice. Okay, it might actually still be Iowa. I think it's in Des Moines. It's Lachelle's on Ingersoll. You want the best burger you'll ever have in your life?
Really?
Lachelle's in Des Moines. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So, and there's one in Highland Park now too. There's two of them.
Okay.
But that's my like absolute guilty pleasure. State wrestling, you'll find me there at least once, if not twice. It's pretty good.
I'll have to look that place up. I'm in Des Moines enough times. I'll have to look that
Oh
place
yeah,
up.
it's great. Lachelle's Fine Foods. It's smash burgers and it's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, that does sound good.
It's great.
You have traveled quite a bit. It
I have,
seems like
yes.
you've been around, lived in
Yep, three states
three
and
different states, but New York and North
yeah.
Carolina and so if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you want to go?
Oh man, that's tough. Anywhere in the world. Gosh. We honeymooned in Alaska and that was wonderful. Definitely recommend it. Um, a lot of my friends are in Vegas right now, so I'd love to say Vegas for the open, but oh man. Probably Greece. Greece is on my list for sure. I'd love to visit
Little
Greece.
little European travel there. Because if you're
Yeah,
going to Europe, you might as well see it all because it's like traveling the Midwest,
yeah, it
really.
really is. Yeah.
Vegas would be all right too, though.
I mean, we wrestled in Vegas every year at Wartburg, so I've done
Yeah.
a lot of Vegas in my time.
My brother taught school in Las Vegas for the entire from my junior year to my senior year of college, junior year of
Oh,
high school to senior
uh-huh.
year. I've been in Vegas a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since those days. It's much much bigger. But I was
Oh yeah.
there. I told I said I was had an interview with Katie
Oh
Biscaglia
yeah.
earlier, and she was just in Vegas, and she was
Oh
talking
yeah.
about Fremont Street, and I said I was at Fremont Street before the canopy of lights was over it. So
Oh yeah.
so yeah, I was there a long time ago, before you were born, young ladies. So wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, here's a wrestling question, and you've been around wrestling long enough. You can answer these questions. Second period, the other person is deferred. What's our choice? What's the West Marshall girls choosing?
Great question. Depends which one it is. Man, my coach in me says bottom every time, but the three-point takedown changes everything. Changes so much.
It does.
You asked me 2 years ago, it's bottom every single time. It's not always now. I
Yes,
mean,
and girls
I'd love
wrestling
to
is
say go
also
neutral and
yeah.
score on your feet, but I'll stick with the Warburg way. It's bottom every time.
I used to be that way until God, it would have been Tatum Shepard's between her eighth grade freshman year. Might have been her freshman year. No, it was between her eighth grade freshman year at AAU State. She's down by 1 point, third period against a very good wrestler, and chose top. And I was like, Jason, what are you doing? And she's like, if I tell her what to take right now, she loses, it's my fault. And I was like, man, it's kind of stuck with me. And then
Yeah,
I've noticed as I've gone through, man, we really worked on a lot. We worked on bottom a lot last year, but my girls are so much better on top. And if I don't give them that opportunity, we might not get that opportunity, you know. So
that's where we're at as well.
I will choose top. I will let them choose top if they feel that I give them the opportunity most of the time, unless they give me that blank stare. Then we're probably neutral. Then we're
Yep.
probably neutral.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
watching wrestling and what's the favorite takedown? What do you love watching? What do you love seeing?
Everyone loves a double. Like
Yeah,
everyone loves a double, but girls hitting a double's not always as executed as well as boys, speed and lift. I love a sweep single if you
that's
can.
pretty typical for the girl. I'm a fireman's
I
guy,
feel
but
like for girls, yeah, that sweep single, oh, probably going to be hitting that if we can.
pinning. What do you think the West Marshall girls? How are they pinning people?
How are they or how should they? Um,
Either way.
my girls love a freaking headlock lately. A headlock into a pinning sequence.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, I'd say we work a lot on running an armbar, but I think of one girl that just comes to mind, and if she can hit a cradle, she's going to every time. She's tall like I am though.
uh-huh.
Like
Yep.
she's got a lot of limb to work with. Uh, and I think of like my body compared to hers, I'd probably be going for it too. So
Off the bottom, how are they? What's their big thing to get away? I'd tell you, we worked religiously, like every day. We worked on quad pod stand-ups this year, and we actually had more escapes this year than any other year with a smaller team.
I don't want to copy you, but I feel like that's what we worked for too.
I think it works for girls. I really
It
do.
really does. Like center of gravity is in just such a different
Hmm.
spot.
Yep.
Uh, that ability to elevate the hips a little bit more and a longer torso typically you can really stand up out of, and it's just so much
Yeah.
more simple.
I know it's just a straight stand up. A lot of times we end up with our face on the mat.
Yes.
So
We're
that was,
instead of moving up, we're moving out, and it's just yeah.
yeah, we don't
Mhm.
have that
Yeah.
strength to come back.
Shoulder- Yeah.
So I think girls wrestling, I think a lot of us work on this very similar things. I think that's where we're at right now.
There we start.
Um, and this works in every sport. I
Mhm.
talk always ask coaches pre-match ritual, but before you, how do we flip that switch from being in girls athletics especially, how do we go from being this super sweet person to getting to the middle of the mat and I'm mean? How do we flip that switch? I mean, what sports did you all play?
So I did volleyball. I was a competitive cheerleader, ran track. I like to tell my students ball sports and I just didn't get along. Wasn't my jam. Uh, so I grew up in a track family and a baseball family, but I was a big track athlete.
But that's track for sure. You have to be focused, right? Because it's that gun goes off. It's can't dilly dally and think about, well, I should go now.
Yeah. If you're
So
thinking while you're running, you're doing something wrong.
yeah. So how would you prepare and
Whew. So my educational background is in like psychology and a lot of that. So I teach my students all about like that feeling, but you have to pee before you compete. That's your nervous system. That's your fight or flight. And it's learning about how to harness the fight or flight or freeze and how do you channel that into something that's productive. And a lot of the ways that I teach my kids to do or to manage that feeling, it's all through controlled breathing. I wish I would have known about this when I was an athlete or had the understanding of it. Uh, is routine controlled breathing and just understanding mental rehearsal and how mental rehearsal can prepare you for any situation you find yourself in on the mat or in any other sport or activity. Uh, Routine and music, honestly, is a lot of it. When I was running, I would have to have this, I'd have the same playlist every time. I probably almost a creature of habit to a fault. Uh, but that was how I would prepare. Um, Same food, same music. Knew I would be successful that way.
Yeah, I very similar. And I actually in talk again, I'll go back to my talking to Katie earlier today, and she said, I don't really have a ritual. And I said, well, mine was as simple as I had to shake my coach's hand. That was what flipped the switch for me. She goes, oh, wait. Every time since I've been a little kid, I've taken my shirt and I folded my shirt and I put my headphones in my phone here and handed it to my dad. She goes, I do that every match. Now that I think I've been doing that since I've been like in third grade. So
Yeah.
she did actually have it. She just didn't realize she had it and stuff. So those little things. And then we talked about music, and I always talk about music, and it's crazy. I think it even might even started with Emma because I said, well, what kind of music do you listen to? And she goes, well, what did I listen to and what would I listen to now are two different things.
Yep.
So, we would talk about, I think about listening to, I'm an 80s guy,
Oh yeah. Yep.
heavy metal hair bands. And
Mhm.
so, I'd have that going and, maybe using too much energy and things up because it's too much,
Oh yeah.
that
Yep.
type of stuff. And that she said that she would go more with something that, uh, this is her intelligence level though. It resets her vagus nerve and things like this. And I'm like, I don't
Oh
even know what
yeah.
you're talking about.
Oh,
but but more calming for putting yourself
yep.
in a different mind frame. So what did you listen to before you ran, and what would you listen to now?
So um, when I was in like, mind you, this was the 2010s when I was in high school. I would listen to a lot of like hip hop, rap, like it was the Lil Wayne T-Pain era, which I now play for my students and they don't know who that is, which ages me. Um, just because I thought that's what I needed to listen to in order to perform like in an aggressive capacity. And that is not my personality at all. Like, yes, I like that music, but just like the aggressiveness is not my natural personality. Uh, what I listen to now is more of my like, if I were to compete, would be my day to day like. So I'm an ABBA girly. Like I'm a
Nice.
big disco, Bee Gees, ABBA, Beatles, Billy Joel. Uh, just something that is normal and comforting. To reset that fight or flight and take you out of that mind frame is what I would recommend doing now, knowing what I
Yeah,
know about psychology.
yeah, that's a good answer. Good music too.
Yeah.
It's fun music.
It is.
And you say you age yourself. I do every time I put my playlist on, and I don't get to run the music in our wrestling room ever, so I have to turn that over. The times I do, it's a lot of complaining, and it just doesn't work. So,
I get you.
um, I'm sure you grew up on them because you're similar age to my children and stuff. But favorite Disney movie?
So, oh man.
Because you would have been that would have been prime
Yeah,
Disney
I was born
time
in
when they're
95.
and they're pot. Yeah, that's my oldest daughter's a 95 or
Mhm.
two. So.
Yep.
They were popping Disney movies out left and right. Really good ones too.
I think it might be Hercules.
That's a good one.
It probably is what became made me become an English teacher and like the whole Greek mythology was what I really specialized in as an English teacher.
God, I kind of forgot about that one. That's a really good one. It's a
It's
very
really
good
great.
one.
Music's
What?
also impeccable.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Now what movies would you watch or what type of movies would you watch?
I get made fun of this a lot. My like comfort movie is Mamma Mia, which is probably the ABBA thing. But it's
Uh-huh.
Mamma Mia or Legally Blonde. Those are the two
Okay.
movies. Like if I'm choosing, that's what it is every time.
I'm not gonna get on you about Reese Witherspoon movies. She's all right. She's good. I don't think I've ever watched Mamma Mia because I'm not a musical. I'm not a
Oh.
musical guy. My wife is. She's probably seen it a dozen times, but maybe we don't watch movies at the same time. Um,
That might happen in our house too.
do you binge any TV shows?
Oh man, my husband and I just finished Severance. It was
I've heard
wonderful.
that's really good.
Super great. Um Otherwise I am not home much.
I
Like I work
understand this. Yeah,
pretty much
you're
every night,
gone.
every week.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Yeah. My wife has gotten into, well, we were watching um like snapped shows where the
yeah.
wife goes nuts and kills the
Oh yeah.
husband. I was getting a little worried, but now we've been watching more of the smugglers stuff, caught at the border type stuff. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. No,
Oh,
and yeah, I binge all kinds of shows because I work nights and we're not always very
oh yeah.
busy. So sometimes I have to binge some shows.
Nice.
In wrestling, and because you've been around the sport a lot and you've had some really great coaches and you've been around some really impressive people, who inspires you or who inspires you in wrestling?
Oh, that's an awesome
Why
question.
don't we go two angles here? Why don't we, as a
Yeah,
coach, and who's an athlete that inspires you?
awesome. Okay, cool. Coach, I was like so lucky that I caught the tail end of Jim Miller's career
Hmm.
and like Keller's first step into being the head coach at Wartburg. And the way that both of those men just carry themselves is so deeply impressive to me. The do it anyway mindset uh, really stuck with me as a person from Millboy, and I still carry that over in my life today. So I'd say both Keller and Miller were deeply impactful for me. And an athlete, oh man, I've gotten to meet some really cool people, um, just in my career. But I think, oh, I don't want to say Emma. I want to say Emma because I love Emma.
Yeah.
Emma Rand is so wonderful. Uh, but oh man. Okay, yeah. You'll know Warburg's kind of my one and only in my heart. So Kenny Anderson was a teammate of mine at Warburg. He passed away kind of suddenly a few years after we graduated, but he was just this absolutely incredible athlete and just an even better person.
Hmm.
And he was a three-time champ at Warburg. He came from the JUCO world. He was from Massachusetts, uh, but was so deeply talented as an athlete, but was also just having so much fun the whole time. And that's what I really want to take as a coach and as an AD and ensure my kids are having that experience that, like, yes, what we're doing is it's important and it's serious and it's hard, but this is just fun.
Yeah.
Like, what we're doing is fun, and wrestling is supposed to be fun. And Kenny just totally personified that. And then, like, also, like, Yanni, and like, I got to meet Yanni and I got to meet Bajrang, and there's incredibly cool athletes. Jaden Cox is one of my favorite athletes I've ever worked with. Just the positivity I see these people having around the sport is what I want for my kids and want them to emulate.
Yeah. And I asked, actually, this came from Emma too. I was at a clinic with her and I said, man, do the United States, the top level athletes, do they take training courses on answering like questions? Do they? And she's like, no, that's genuinely who these people are.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I these are the best athletes in the country. These are the by far some of the best athletes in the world. And they're so positive and so just
Yeah.
generous with their time and they're just neat people. And then you look at some of our athletes, maybe even some of our high school athletes that think they're a little bit too good for this or that or helping this person out. And I always look to that and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, if why don't you look to these people because they really are impressive and they're having fun doing what
They
they're
are.
doing. They're
Yeah.
working incredibly hard, but they're having fun doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's something I try to get with our art. And as you get to be older, your coaching changes too. I can admit that my first years of coaching, I wasn't a very good coach because I was more worried about proving that I was the best wrestler in the room than I was teaching and stuff. Now it's, yeah, I'm probably not the best wrestler in the room in a room full of girls that just started wrestling a couple years ago. So that's okay. We're
Yeah.
having fun doing it. We're having fun and stuff. So this is something that I look back on. My coach, I had Brent Hagan from Brent, Iowa, was my coach. He was a three-time state champion. He placed at Mankato when it was Mankato State, and then in Northern Iowa place. So he's an incredible wrestler. His brother's also three-time state champion. His dad's a state champion. Things that he said to me, I still remember today. And this is, I'm 35 years out of high school. I still remember the voice. Is there something that you can remember from Jim Miller or from someone that you will always use in your lifetime?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So this was from Keller, and it technically it's like an FDR quote, and it was Aaron Warnemont. We had a poster for Aaron in the Warburg Wrestling Room. If not you, who? If not now, when? Uh, and that's kind of what I I go with. And I actually between that and then the idea of mudita, which I literally have tattooed on my wrist right there.
Yep.
Uh mudita is the idea of finding joy through the success of others. As wrestling is an individual sport, but you make up a team. Uh, and mudita is the whole idea that you shouldn't be jealous of someone else's success. You should help to celebrate them and have that lift you up and inspire you. Uh, that's something that really stuck with me, and it just takes me back to like that. If not you, who? If not now, when? Uh, you can't do it alone, type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Jim Miller coaching tree is pretty impressive,
It's
you
a big
know.
one. It grows every day.
Yeah, and then because I probably one of the most impressive people. Well, I've met Jim Miller. I've had conversations with him. I've had conversations with a lot of different people, but uh, um, Mitchell
Yeah.
at Grandview, talking to Mitchell, I'm sure is almost exactly for hearing uh,
Yeah.
Miller. But
100%.
I went on the recruiting visit with Keegan when she was
Yep.
looking for a school, and they hadn't hired Crinzy yet. So
Oh, yep.
I sat and talked to Mitchell, and I was like, if you don't come wrestle here, you're crazy. Because if I had any eligibility right now, I'd be wrestling for Mitchell right now.
Yes.
And stuff just the way those coaches are in that coaches tree. It's just different philosophy, but boy, they get results. They do incredible stuff, really
Yes.
incredible stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know exactly how this is going to happen because it happens in different ways. Maybe you got bit by a radioactive spider. Maybe you've come back in from space and were exposed to some type of radiation, but you have now been given a superpower.
Mhm.
What superpower do you have and why?
Is it? Oh man, that's a great question. The teacher in me wants to say like mind reader, but then sometimes I also don't want to because I teach high schoolers. Um, I would like to say like invisibility would be kind of cool just because like I feel like as an AD we're just kind of like constantly behind the scenes like hiding behind everything, but it would just be interesting sometimes to be a fly on the wall and just like I like to
I
learn
think you're
something.
right. Yep. I think the son Anna Sundell, I don't know if you heard from Boone, she said that she would also like to be invisible because she likes to be nosy and she likes to just listen in on people's conversations. So
Fair enough.
yeah, I've heard some really good ones on that.
I'm sure,
Now
yeah.
here's fun for you because this is stuff you can maybe do. You've now been promoted to the head of the NFHS and you're in charge of wrestling rules meetings and you can make one rule change. You can change a rule or add a rule. What rule would you change or
Oh,
add?
able to change or add. I love the addition of the step out, but I was with IA when we added the step out tonight of conflict the first time,
Yep.
and it was a big honking deal. Um, oh man. Logistically, there's some rules I would like to change on wrestling meet management, but that's a separate issue. Yeah, probably be the step out. I think an incentive. I will say I loved the starting and neutral. uh Whenever out of bounds restarts in
Hmm.
neutral, I loved that. Just incentivizing active wrestling was so great. And I think it's a nice little hybrid of like we're gonna bring a tiny bit of freestyle in here, but we're not gonna fully convert yet.
Yep.
But yeah, the step out or the restart in neutral is nice.
I like the step out. I actually, the majority of people that I ask this question say the step out. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that's something, hope maybe it's coming because it would really keep matches going. It's
Mhm.
funny. Um, in Iowa, and Tony's done it. Well, Tony did the step out at some night of conflicts and our
Yep.
war at West Gyms. I'm not sure
Yep.
where that started,
We did my both.
which one,
Yep.
but between Mata Dreams in the fall, that's Charlotte's female elite wrestling tournament,
Yep.
and Twin Rivers has always been those two tournaments have always been modified, and
Yep.
actually they grew out of the same group of people because um, Ella Schmidt's dad was one of the first people to work with Charlotte on that, and Jason Lloyd also helped on that first Mad of Dreams tournament, which so they've been doing modified. This year, USA Wrestling adopted modified in their girls national meets,
Oh.
and they
Mhm.
got so much flack for it. Like people hated it. Why do we have this other style? And it's so funny because we've been doing it very successfully in
Yeah.
Iowa, probably for 8 to 10 years, and people love it, and the officials love it, and the
Yeah.
fans like it because it's faster pace, and the ones that don't love it, again, I'm going to go back to my interview with Katie. She's like, I want to be on top. I want the opportunity, but not that she didn't take somebody down, but that's her strong point is top. So it does
Absolutely.
take away from that. The very first one that I went to, I absolutely hated it because again, we were very good on top and they were calling it more like freestyle. Like if there was no action, we were back on our feet like
Oh, like
10,
passivity.
15. Yeah, so they changed. That has changed from the very first
Okay.
one, which was a conflict at Carver. This was the
Oh,
first time I
okay.
went and saw that. That was that's a few years back. That's a lot of years back. But no, no, it's been fun doing this. I always leave a little bit of time at the end for a final thoughts from whoever, and it of course it has to be profound. It's something that'll probably be written down in books and used
Yeah.
for centuries, probably put on stone tablets. So if you have something that we good enough to put on a stone tablet, what are your final thoughts for today?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I would say I've been very lucky. Uh, and I've worked with some really incredible people throughout my career that have just totally taken a chance on me. And I think also I will own that I had to take a chance on myself. Um, and kind of be willing to put yourself in the room, even if you're the only girl that's there. Uh, whether it was when I first started with Tony, or when I ended up going out to Campbell, or when I was at Beat the Streets, or when I came back here and became an AD, uh, I had become very comfortable being the only woman in the room a lot of the time. Uh, and there are incredible men that I've worked with that have really helped to lift me up and elevate my position, but also have to be okay being uncomfortable, just getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and putting yourself in positions where you know you're going to be successful, even if you are just that loud girl from Iowa that won't shut up about girls wrestling. Uh, and that's okay. And have to just be comfortable in your own skin and do it that way. So I don't know if that's deeply profound,
No,
but
that's I'm getting the chisel out right now. So no, I appreciate that having that other voice, another voice, because
yeah,
there's a lot of really good people and a lot of really good people in girls wrestling,
they
and
really
it's
are.
it's growing so fast, and it's a different sport it is than the boys, and I don't
It is.
think people that haven't really watched and been part of it don't maybe appreciate the sport itself because
I
there's something different about it.
Yes, I really recommend like a lot of for like ADs, we all talk. A lot of them have never been to the girls' state tournament. And if even just a casual, you don't know anything about wrestling, but you want to see something that's truly incredible, go to the Iowa Girls State Wrestling Tournament because I will. I was there when IA Wrestle, we hosted our Iowa Wrestling Coaches Officials Association girls tournament, the
Yeah,
very first one. And now to see a sanctioned and to see the growth, it's truly electric. Like stepping into that arena is it's my favorite day of the year every year. It's what I look forward to all school year is the Iowa Girls State Wrestling Tournament, and
yeah,
it's
it's the environment is crazy. Probably even the better environment might be in the back room where
yes, I
everybody is
so
it's
fun.
those girls get along so
They
well.
do. It's
It's
crazy.
yeah, it's amazing. Like fierce competitors
Oh
are best
yeah.
of friends, and
Mhm.
they will go out and beat each other. There's more hair ripped out on the mat,
Oh
and I mean, just
yes.
vicious wrestling and hardcore wrestling. But then in the back room, they're having so much fun, and
Yeah.
you'll never see that. You will never see that at the boys' state tournament.
No.
Not that they're not
No.
friends and they don't get along, but you will not see the same.
Yeah.
You will not see the same stuff. So
I'm
yeah,
under the arena for both. In my role as a photographer and then in my role as an AD. Uh, and the environment's just so deeply different in two extremely cool ways. They're both beautiful in their own way. It's just
yeah,
so different. It's so cool.
very much. Will you
Yeah.
be in Des Moines next weekend at the freestyle state tournament taking pictures or anything?
I don't know, probably knowing me, I just kind of if there's a girls tournament, I usually just kind of roll up. So I'm
Yeah,
sure
I think I'm
Tony.
I think I'm gonna head that direction. I might see if Tony will let me do some interviews for IA Wrestle, things like that.
Absolutely. That'd
Maybe
be
some interviews for the podcast too. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
fun.
So no,
Yeah.
it was really good to meet you. I'm glad we got to know
Oh,
each other better
absolutely.
and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the stop button on the record, but if you want to wait just a moment.